Doctor reveals top 5 vegetables that worsen diabetes. What if the vegetables on your plate, foods you trust to protect your health, are quietly raising your blood sugar and putting your life at risk? For millions living with diabetes or pre-diabetes, what you eat can mean the difference between energy and exhaustion, healing and harm, independence and long-term complications. In this video, we'll reveal the top 5 vegetables that diabetics should avoid, explore why they're more dangerous than you think, and give you smarter, safer alternatives. Plus, we'll uncover a hidden class of vegetables that may trigger inflammation and digestive issues in some people, without you even knowing it. Welcome to Holistic Health, where we give you real, doctor-backed advice to help you live longer, stronger, and more in control of your health. If you care about protecting your body and beating diabetes naturally, this is a video you can't afford to miss. Vegetables and blood sugar. The truth diabetics aren't told. We've grown up believing vegetables are the healthiest foods on earth, and in many ways, that's true. They're packed with nutrients, support digestion, and form the backbone of a balanced diet. But when it comes to managing diabetes, the conversation becomes more nuanced. Not all vegetables are created equal. Some are powerfully anti-inflammatory and blood sugar stabilizing. Others, despite being natural and unprocessed, can cause surprising glucose spikes, especially when portion sizes or preparation methods are ignored. And this isn't just theoretical. I've seen it over and over again in my practice. Patients who are doing everything right still find themselves frustrated, confused, and dealing with erratic blood sugar readings. The problem often lies in hidden carbs, misunderstood starchy veggies, and overlooked metabolic triggers. As a doctor with more than 30 years of experience in diabetic care, I've worked with thousands of patients navigating this dietary minefield. And I can tell you, what you don't know about vegetables can absolutely hurt your blood sugar. Let's take a closer look at 5 vegetables that are often misunderstood in the diabetic community. These aren't junk foods, they aren't ultra-processed, but they do require a deeper understanding because in the wrong context, they can quietly sabotage even the most diligent diabetic meal plan. 1. Butternut squash, the surprising carb bomb. Let's start with a crowd favorite, butternut squash. This bright orange, creamy vegetable is a fall favorite, appearing in everything from roasted sides to velvety soups. It's loaded with vitamin A, C, magnesium, and antioxidants that support immune health, eye health, and even heart function. On the surface, it checks all the boxes for superfood status. But if you're living with diabetes or struggling with insulin resistance, this is one vegetable that demands caution. Many patients assume squash is a low-carb option simply because it's a vegetable. That assumption can be costly. One cooked cup of butternut squash contains between 16 and 22 grams of carbohydrates, with only about 2 to 3 grams of fiber. That's a net carb load of around 19 grams, higher than a slice of bread. Its glycemic index sits in the mid-range around 51, but the glycemic load quickly escalates as you eat more than 1 cup. And trust me, most people do. Roasting brings out the natural sugars, creating a caramelized flavor that's addictive and easy to overeat. I remember Maria, a 62-year-old patient of mine with well-controlled type 2 diabetes, until suddenly her glucose readings were creeping upward. She was puzzled. No soda, no bread, no sweets. But when we took a deeper look at her food diary, there it was. A giant bowl of roasted butternut squash almost every evening. Her healthy side dish was the metabolic trigger all along. When we replaced it with lower starch alternatives and limited her squash intake to half a cup, always paired with protein, her numbers normalized within days. Now, to be fair, butternut squash isn't the enemy. It offers real nutrition, including potassium and beta-carotene, which benefit heart and immune function. Some studies, such as a 2020 article in Nutrients, suggest that squash contains resistant starches that may improve gut health and even insulin sensitivity. But here's the caveat. Those benefits are highly dependent on how you cook it. Boiling and cooling may preserve some of the resistant starch. Roasting at high temperatures? Not so much. And the portion size still matters, a lot. So, what's my professional recommendation? Keep it in your diet, but treat it like a carbohydrate. Stick to half a cup. Pair it with grilled chicken, baked tofu, or avocado to slow the digestion, and rotate it with lower carb substitutes like roasted cauliflower, steamed zucchini, or mashed turnips, which offer similar warmth and texture but won't overwhelm your bloodstream with glucose. Remember, food isn't just about nutrients, it's about how your body metabolizes them. For diabetics, awareness is power, and butternut squash is a perfect example of a food that needs respect, not avoidance. 2. Green peas, the tiny troublemaker. Next up, let's talk about green peas. They're small, round, and sweet, and often seen as an innocent side dish on dinner plates around the world. But if you're managing diabetes, these little guys can be sneakier than they appear. A single cup contains about 20 grams of total carbs, including about 8 grams of fiber, which helps, but still leaves around 12 net grams of starch-heavy carbs. That's more than many people expect from such a modest-looking vegetable. Here's the trap. Because peas are tiny and soft, people tend to overeat them without realizing it. A generous serving can easily contain 1.5 to 2 cups, which may spike your blood sugar just as much as a serving of pasta. And while technically a legume, peas share more in common with starchy carbs like beans or lentils than with fibrous vegetables like spinach or kale. One of my patients, Ron, had a nearly perfect A1C score and followed every rule in the diabetic playbook until dinner. He loved peas, steamed, buttered, and piled high next to his lean meats and roasted carrots. But night after night, his post-meal glucose was rising 40 to 60 points. The culprit? An overzealous portion of green peas. When we replaced them with sautéed zucchini, his blood sugar stayed stable, and he felt more energized in the evening. Peas do offer value. They're rich in polyphenols and contain small amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin K, and manganese. Some evidence suggests they may support heart health thanks to their antioxidant content. But again, it's not just about what they contain, it's about how they behave in your body. With a glycemic index of about 48, peas fall into the medium category, but their impact multiplies quickly if you don't watch your portions. My rule of thumb? Half a cup max per meal, and never alone. Always combine them with protein and fat to blunt the glucose response. If you're using canned or frozen peas, avoid versions with added sugar, salt, or creamy sauces. And for those using CGMs, watch the 1 to 2 hour window after consumption. You may tolerate peas just fine, or you may discover they're secretly disrupting your glucose management. 3. Celery, the pesticide problem. Now let's move to a vegetable that's long been considered harmless, celery. Low in calories, packed with water, and practically carb-free, celery is often promoted as a free food in diabetes circles. And nutritionally, it offers plenty of positives: vitamin K, folate, potassium, and antioxidants like apigenin, which may help reduce inflammation and support brain health. But there's a darker side to celery that rarely gets attention: its pesticide burden. Every year, celery ranks high on the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list due to the high level of chemical residues found on conventionally grown stalks. These aren't just agricultural side effects, they're endocrine disruptors, neurotoxins, and metabolic saboteurs. One standout patient, Evelyn, had been eating clean and exercising, but her energy was low and her blood sugar readings weren't improving. She was snacking on celery daily, 5 to 6 stalks at a time, and always bought the conventional kind. When we switched her to organic celery and added more variety to her veggie intake, the difference was immediate. Better digestion, more energy, and improved fasting insulin. The science backs it up. A 2015 review in Environmental Health Perspectives linked chronic pesticide exposure to a significantly higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Animal studies have shown that compounds like chlorpyrifos impair pancreatic beta cell function and reduce insulin sensitivity. And these exposures are cumulative. If you're also eating non-organic apples, spinach, strawberries, or peppers, your pesticide load adds up fast, even if your carb count is low. So, what's the solution? First, buy organic celery when possible. If it's out of budget or unavailable, wash it thoroughly using a baking soda rinse or vinegar soak. Simple water isn't enough. Second, eat it in moderation. 2 to 3 stalks per day is plenty. And third, rotate it. Add cucumbers, jicama, radishes, or organic bell peppers to your snack list. The goal isn't perfection, it's reducing your body's overall chemical burden. 4. Corn, the sweet saboteur. There's something about corn that feels inherently wholesome. Maybe it's the golden glow of corn on the cob at a summer barbecue, the nostalgic crunch of popcorn during a movie, or the warmth of a corn tortilla wrapped around your favorite taco. In many ways, corn is woven into the fabric of the American food experience, so much so that it's rarely questioned. But when you pull back the curtain and view corn through a metabolic lens, especially in the context of diabetes or prediabetes, a more complex and concerning picture begins to emerge. Corn isn't just a vegetable. In fact, depending on how it's harvested and prepared, corn functions much more like a grain, and metabolically, it behaves like one. A single medium ear of sweet corn contains around 17 grams of carbohydrates, most of which are starch. Fiber is minimal, just 2 to 3 grams, leaving the net carb count around 14 to 15 grams. And that's for one ear. The glycemic index of corn sits around 52, which might not sound alarming until you consider how it's usually eaten, often alongside other starches or in processed forms that significantly amplify its glycemic load. But let's go beyond the cob. Modern corn has infiltrated nearly every corner of the grocery store. It's in tortilla chips, cornmeal, breakfast cereals, frozen dinners, canned soups, ketchup, salad dressings, and snack bars. Most troubling of all is the widespread use of high-fructose corn syrup, HFCS, a hyper-processed sweetener derived from corn starch. Found in sodas, baked goods, and countless packaged items, HFCS has been linked repeatedly to metabolic dysfunction. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition highlighted a strong correlation between excessive HFCS intake and increased rates of obesity, insulin resistance, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Another global study in Global Public Health even tied national HFCS consumption to higher diabetes prevalence, regardless of overall sugar intake. In my clinical practice, I've worked with hundreds of patients who thought they were eating clean, only to discover that corn, often in hidden forms, was undermining their progress. One patient, Dennis, came to me after months of plateauing blood sugar levels. He had cut out soda, skipped desserts, and started walking daily. Still, his A1C was stuck above 7. When we reviewed his food journal, corn appeared in almost every meal, corn tortillas at lunch, corn chips with salsa at dinner, and popcorn in the evenings. It wasn't just the quantity, it was the frequency, the lack of awareness, and the absence of balance. The real issue with corn isn't necessarily that it's bad, it's that it's easy to overeat, often shows up in processed or refined forms, and delivers a concentrated dose of rapidly digestible starch. Popcorn, which feels light and innocent, contains roughly 30 grams of carbohydrates in just 3 cups. Most people eat double that in one sitting. And while air-popped popcorn is better than the butter-soaked versions, it still delivers a quick glucose hit, especially without protein or fiber to buffer it. Cornflakes are even worse. With a glycemic index pushing above 80, cornflakes raise blood sugar faster than many candy bars. They're one of the worst breakfast choices for anyone trying to stabilize morning glucose levels, yet they're still marketed as part of a balanced breakfast. And then there's the matter of perception. Because corn is a plant-based, naturally grown food, it's often viewed as inherently healthy. But natural doesn't always mean blood sugar friendly. In fact, whole corn behaves much more like a starchy grain than a non-starchy vegetable like spinach or broccoli. That's why, in my clinic, I coach patients to mentally categorize corn alongside foods like brown rice or quinoa, complex carbs that require planning, portion control, and smart pairing. So, how do you handle corn if you enjoy it? You don't necessarily need to eliminate it, but you do need to be strategic. First, cut your portions. Aim for half an ear or 1/4 cup of kernels at most per meal. Second, never eat corn on its own. Always pair it with protein, like grilled chicken or beans, and healthy fats, like avocado or olive oil, to slow digestion and reduce the glycemic impact. Third, read your labels. Corn derivatives are everywhere. Corn syrup, cornstarch, maltodextrin, and often appear in places you wouldn't expect, like soups or healthy snack bars. One technique I often recommend is testing. Use a glucose monitor to track your body's response. Eat a serving of corn, wait 1 to 2 hours, and check your numbers. For some, the spike is negligible. For others, it's dramatic. That data helps you make informed decisions, not just based on generalized guidelines, but on your personal metabolism. My personal lesson, after years of observing patterns in patients, is that moderation and mindfulness trump elimination. Corn isn't evil. It's familiar, comforting, and rich in cultural significance. But if you're not paying attention, it's one of those foods that quietly works against your goals. It's a starch in disguise, and unless you treat it with the respect you'd give to bread or pasta, it can cause as much metabolic disruption. In the end, managing diabetes isn't about labeling foods as good or bad. It's about understanding how they behave in your body, how they interact with your meals, and how they influence your long-term health. Corn may be America's favorite grain-veggie hybrid, but in the diabetic world, it's one that requires vigilance, education, and balance. 5. White potatoes, the hidden starch bomb. Let's close this section with the most common and arguably most dangerous vegetable for diabetics: white potatoes. This is the one I see cause the most confusion. People bake them instead of frying, skip the butter, and assume they're in the clear. But white potatoes are among the fastest starches to convert to glucose in the body. One medium baked potato has around 37 grams of carbs and barely 4 grams of fiber. That's a net hit of 33 grams, comparable to 2 slices of white bread. And the glycemic index? Depending on how it's prepared, a white potato can clock in at 78 to 85, dangerously close to pure sugar. Glycemic load is even more alarming, sometimes reaching 26 or higher per serving. A landmark Harvard study published in the New England Journal of Medicine tracked over 120,000 people and found that potatoes, particularly fried and mashed, were strongly associated with weight gain and a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. I've had patients like James completely stall their progress by including potatoes at dinner multiple times per week. But once we made small swaps, half portions, skins left on, paired with protein, or replaced with mashed cauliflower, their insulin response improved dramatically. Want to enjoy potatoes occasionally? Cook them, cool them, and reheat them to create resistant starch. Keep the skin. Eat with protein and fat. And always monitor your personal blood sugar response. What works for one diabetic won't work for all. In conclusion, not all vegetables are created equal, especially when it comes to blood sugar. Foods like butternut squash, green peas, celery, corn, and white potatoes have their benefits, but they also come with risks that diabetics can't afford to ignore. By focusing on preparation, portion control, and personal response, you can still enjoy many of these foods, just smarter and more strategically. Stay tuned, because in the next section, we'll dive into nightshade vegetables, a lesser-known but often problematic group for those with inflammation, autoimmune issues, or unpredictable glucose levels. Now that we've uncovered the hidden risks behind some of the most common vegetables in your kitchen, it's time to take what you've learned and use it to take control of your health. Whether it's the high-starch hit from white potatoes, the blood sugar spiking load of corn, the deceptive carb content in green peas and butternut squash, or the pesticide-laden crunch of celery, each of these foods has a story that goes far beyond the surface. Diabetes isn't just about avoiding sugar. It's about understanding how every food choice affects your metabolism, your energy, and your long-term well-being. As a doctor, I've seen firsthand how small changes in awareness and strategy can lead to powerful improvements in blood sugar control, weight loss, and overall quality of life. That's why I urge you to take this knowledge seriously. Don't just eat healthy, eat smart. Choose vegetables that support your insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and nourish your body without sending your glucose levels on a roller coaster. And remember, it's not about restriction, it's about informed decisions. When you know better, you do better. If you found this video helpful, insightful, or even a little surprising, I invite you to join our growing community by subscribing to Holistic Health. We're here to empower you with real, doctor-backed advice to help you thrive, naturally and intentionally. Hit that like button to let us know this content made a difference for you, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the tools, tips, and truths you need to take control of your health journey. This isn't just about managing diabetes. It's about reclaiming your vitality, one informed bite at a time. Thanks for watching, and stay healthy, stay curious, and stay committed to your better self.